Hello and welcome back to 3+1 Media, where we talk about people, politics, and pop culture. And today in People, we are talking about non-binary student Nex Benedict, who lived in Owasso, Oklahoma, and who lost their life in the middle of February 2024. This has become quite the controversial. I want to give a trigger warning and say that this story is heartbreaking. It's sad, and it is still under investigation. I'm going to give you the facts of the case as I have seen them play out. I originally saw this story break on the story being championed by a lesbian blog based in Oklahoma. No major news outlets had picked this up, not even local news outlets. The story of Nex's death was almost buried. Nex was assigned female at birth and identified as non-binary. Nex lived a small little life filled with a lot of self-love and self-growth, but a lot of challenges. This blog did a great job of educating me on this story and giving me a path to follow. Originally, I made this video on TikTok, which has garnered, as of today, 2.7 million views. And I'm so thankful that it has. It has been shared by people like Jonathan Van Ness and a number of other very big, strong platforms on social media. And I think that has garnered larger press around this story. This is that original TikTok. Note, it has some discrepancies and some inaccuracies, but they are going to be clarified later and also in this video. Take a look at this. This is the hate you give. Nex Benedict was 16 years old, non-binary, living in the Republican hellscape that is Oklahoma. They were viciously beaten in a school bathroom at Owasso High School by a group of girls. They died as a result of that physical assault. After being beaten, he remained at that school and suffered. After the beating, Nex was unable to walk, and the school still did not notify medical professionals. No ambulance was called, no parent was called, no bully punished. It wasn't until Nex went home that their parents took them to the hospital, and it was in that hospital on the very next day that they died. This is the hate you give. Nex loved nature, their cat Zeus, cooking, and was a straight A student. Nex was a member of the Cherokee Nation, beaten to death by high school girls in a bathroom in the middle of the school day. A bathroom that Nex was forced to use because of laws regarding their gender identity. This is the hate that you give. This is a result of that hate, the loss of their life. Finally, more and more people on social media started to share the story, research the story, and we found out some things that I can now set straight from that number one, Nex was not a member of the Cherokee Nation, but it has Choctaw lineage. Additionally, while it is true that Nex was left behind in the bathroom and did indeed black out during the assault, Nex was able to get up and was able to walk with the help of a resource officer. And all of that was then clarified in another video that I made and posted that has now garnered 30,000 views. I want you to take a look at this. We now know more about the death of Nex Benedict. Police have released limited and edited footage from Owasso High School, from the 911 calls, and from police interviews at the hospital where Nex was treated. We know that Nex Benedict was confronted in a girls' bathroom by a group of girls over how they walked and what clothes they wore. Nex poured water on the girls and was subsequently assaulted. The girls left the bathroom, leaving Nex behind. Nex did walk out of the bathroom, but was given support by a school resource officer to make that walk. Nex was escorted to the nurse's office, seen in footage being disoriented and leaning against a wall at certain points in that video. Is sent home, is taken to the hospital, is released, but returns the next day after Nex's caregiver makes an urgent call pleading for help, says that Nex is posturing, which is the type of bodily response someone has when they are having a seizure. At the hospital, Nex was interviewed by police. During the police interview at the hospital, Nex said they had been continuously bullied and said that they blacked out during the assault. I want to emphasize that self-defense legally is limited to proportionate response. Physical assault resulting in the loss of consciousness is not proportionate to being splashed with water. Confirm and stress that the preliminary police report states that Nex's death was not a result of trauma, as determined by the police. Medical examiner's findings have not been released. In order for a cause of death to be trauma, it has to be the direct, immediate result of sharp or blunt mechanical force, an object. Blunt force trauma is when someone is struck in the head by an object and they die shortly thereafter. Had Nex expired in the bathroom, the cause of death would have been blunt force trauma. Died from cardiac arrest or a stroke or a blood clot the next day, then the cause of death would be a heart attack or stroke or blood clot. That doesn't mean the trauma suffered did not contribute to the stroke or the cardiac arrest or the blood clot. Note, I don't believe that 3 freshman girls intended to inflict a level of harm on Nex that would later result in the loss of their life. My anger, my outrage isn't aimed at 3 15-year-old girls. I know that children fight, they bully, they harm, and what happens, they should get punished, get educated, learn from their mistakes, and become better people. That's not happening in a nation where more than 452 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced or advanced during the 2024 legislative session. Anti-LGBTQA plus rhetoric from leaders of a certain party is continuously inflaming hate against this community, where all of those bills all come from one party, only become law in states where that party is in power. True justice for Nex will not be just fair punishment for the assailants. Blame falls on leaders, officials, and politicians who embrace the type of hate that seeks to kill us all. It doesn't matter if you're gay or you're straight, if you're black or you're brown, if you're Muslim or you're Jew. It doesn't matter, because this hate is aimed at every single person in this country who is in a minority protected class. Every single one of us. There's a lot of anger and hate that is building up around this story in regards to people being angry that it's being shared, and that there's so much national attention finally being levied at the town of Owasso and Oklahoma in general. There's a lot of political things that have happened, political posturing, political people, political actions that have contributed to the anti-LGBTQ sentiment, specifically the anti-trans sentiment in Oklahoma.
Ryan Walters, the superintendent in Oklahoma, who for the past several years has pushed an agenda that paints gay, trans, and non-binary adults and children as the threat and the enemy, finally spoke out about the death of Nex Benedict, made a video that he posted on Twitter addressing their death. And I don't know if he would be proud of this or not, but he actually managed to enrage me in about 4 seconds' time.
Here in Oklahoma, we had a tragedy where a young student lost her life.
Lost their life. Their life, you sanctimonious, disrespectful piece of shit. Set aside being woke for a moment. The sentence, a student lost their life, is a correct sentence in the English language. And when you factor in the fact that Nex Benedict used the pronouns they, them, to call them her is intentionally disrespectful. And you went out of your way to do that. You absolute vile piece of shit. And then he spent the next 8 seconds or so saying that, oh, it's a tragedy and we're praying and the police are investigating. And that's where it ended, because from that point on, the next minute and 10 seconds, he made about him and how he's being persecuted.
Radical left-wing groups and the media have lied about the death of the student and have intentionally lied to push an agenda that was politically motivated to attack me and conservatives in the state of Oklahoma. What we know is the media has lied locally and nationally to try to push a political agenda against conservatives.
Let me go ahead and make this statement. I have no political agenda in Oklahoma. There are no candidates there that I currently endorse, although I'd be willing to, any who are trying to fix the shit show that you've been a part of. But currently, I have no agenda in Oklahoma. I am not after Oklahoma conservatives. I'm after you. I mean, at this point, I'll toss in Tom Woods as well, because when asked about the death of Nex Benedict, he was like, oh, it's terrible, it's tragedy. And then followed that with saying that all members of the LGBTQ plus community are filth. So fuck Tom Woods as well. But the projection is projecting when you're sitting there accusing the left, accusing liberals of taking the tragedy of a child and using it for their own political agenda. As you do that very thing, as you sit there and turn a video speaking about them into a woe is me about how the woke mob is coming for you and you're not going to back down, and using every opportunity, every time a reporter wants to talk to you about the death of Nex, to further push your rhetoric that led to that assault in the first place. Like when the New York Times wanted to speak to you, you called their death a tragedy, but there's not multiple genders, there's two. That's how God created us, Mr. Walters said, saying he did not believe that non-binary or transgender people exist. They have literally existed as long as mankind has. Cultures, civilizations throughout history have names for them. This is not a modern idea. This has always been. And you are turning them into something that should be feared and hated and ultimately die. So yeah, I'm not coming for Oklahoma conservatives. I'm coming for you because you should not have a job where children's safety is in your purview because you've made it clear that there are certain kids you don't care about. And as far as Oklahoma conservatives are concerned, I've heard from a few of them in the days since the death of Nex Benedict. Several of them who are in office, who told me most conservatives in the state of Oklahoma, especially those in office, can't stand you. They think you're too much. You take it too far. You're the problem. You're not the hero of your story. Link to this is in my bio. First time I shared it had no signatures. Now it has just shy of 18,000, and I think that number should be much, much, much bigger. So if you haven't signed this, take about 30 seconds to do so. Thank you.
I need to understand why this autopsy said there was no trauma. We've all seen by now that Nex Benedict died the next day after being beat up at school in Oklahoma in the bathroom. Police are saying that it was not from the trauma that they sustained. The preliminary autopsy report is saying that they did not die from trauma. But how can they come out and say that in the headlines when it says right here they're still waiting on information from the state medical examiner's office? That means the autopsy is not complete. But they're already making articles saying that this teen didn't die from trauma. Here's a screenshot of the text message between Nex and a friend saying, all good, just scrapes and bruises, got a shot in the butt for my pain. But if I'm still dizzy and nauseous in the morning, I might have a concussion. So they were dizzy and nauseous. Something happened to their brain. Why did they jump you? What did the school do about it? They had been bullying me and my friends and I got tired of it, so I poured some water on them. Ooh, water. Wow. Does that merit death or a fight? All three came after me. School did not report to the police and is probably getting sued. They made me and my friends separate. One had to be escorted to the bus. But now Nex is dead. Less than 24 hours later, Nex was dead. And police from this state are saying that it wasn't a result from the fight, but this is the same state where two staffers and a sheriff discussed lynching black people last year. I did a story on this. They were caught on tape, in a hidden tape that was placed in their office by a reporter, saying that they think they need to just lynch black people. Wow, a sheriff. So police coming out and saying this, side-eyeing it. But the New York Post and all of the different media outlets that are reporting this should be ashamed of themselves, because this makes it kind of seem like an open and shut case. Oh, nothing happened. Like, you're taking their word for it. Oklahoma police, you're taking Oklahoma police word for it when the autopsy is not even complete. I don't trust any authority figure in Oklahoma. They're all a shit show.
There are, again, I think a record number of anti-trans bills and anti-gay bills up for vote right now in that state. I will come back to you later in the week once I have been able to do my due diligence and really fact checking and compiling a lot of information around how that works. But some preliminary information that I've been able to find can be shared by these amazing social media influencers, and I want to share a few of them with you here. Take a look.
Update on the death of Nex Benedict. Last week, the Owasso Police Department said initial preliminary evidence from the autopsy report led the police to believe that the death was not trauma-related. I want to reiterate to you, this is the police's opinion based on preliminary autopsy evidence. The autopsy has not been released, and the medical examiner themselves has not made a statement. And now the police department is walking back their own statement. Nick Boatman, a spokesperson for the Owasso Police Department, told Popular Information that the medical examiner had not explicitly said that Benedict's death was unrelated to the head injuries. He goes on to say that Owasso Police reached out to the medical examiner's office in order to head off national scrutiny, but in their own police report, note that they do believe foul play was involved in the death of Nex Benedict. They've said this is an ongoing investigation where nothing is off the table, including murder charges. It wasn't until 5 days after the fight, but they did get a search warrant where they collected 137 photos of the school and girls' bathroom. They also collected 2 swabs from stains found in the bathroom and have collected school records and documents of the students involved in the fight. The Benedict family is also investigating this independently, and there's a movement for the FBI to get involved to investigate hate crime charges. Not only was Nex Benedict non-binary, but they were also Choctaw. Today, students at Owasso High School staged a walkout to protest bullying.
Good morning. There have been a few small but meaningful updates in the ongoing investigation into the death of Nex Benedict. The first regards a search warrant. With this news breaking in the last 24 hours, I have seen a lot of people misunderstanding exactly when this search warrant was served, many stating that it was served yesterday or today when the news broke, with police now suspecting foul play. That is not the case. Local news agencies were able to procure a copy of the original search warrant filed by police after the matter was brought to their attention. The warrant was signed by a judge less than 24 hours after Nex died, which would make this warrant effective as of February 9th. It did contain language indicating the police at the time suspected foul play. I have seen this part of the reporting passed around as though this is a new development that walks back the medical examiner's initial findings that Nex's death was not due to trauma related to the fight from the day prior. It should be made very clear that this warrant was written and signed well before the medical examiner performed the autopsy. There is no newly served warrant, at least not one that I can find. This is just a report of the language inside of the warrant served a few weeks ago. Here are the newly public details that have been confirmed. Investigators took 137 photos of the school, including the bathroom in question. They also obtained records and documents related to all students involved. While in the bathroom, they collected 2 swabs of stains on the bathroom floor. We now know that the school nurse recommended Nex go to a medical facility since they were complaining of a headache. It was at the hospital that Nex's mother called police, but she chose not to file any charges at that time. Instead, she asked police to address issues at the school. The following day, 911 was called by Nex's mother after their eyes rolled back in their head and they struggled to breathe. Paramedics performed CPR. Nex later passed at the hospital. A number of people have floated the idea that Nex took their own life or overdosed on drugs, with fentanyl being the one a number of conservative blogs seem to be running with. Authorities have not received the results of the toxicology screening and advise it could still be several weeks until those are received and possibly longer before they can be made public. Lots of people are asking why students have not been charged, or if they are going to be charged, whether they'll be charged as adults. Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler stated that his office is awaiting for the completion of the police investigation before taking action. A lot of people have been calling this a murder, and I'm sure there will be people who will be very upset if the DA does not pursue that charge. However, please continue to keep in mind that in a legal setting, words like murder, manslaughter, and assault all have specific prerequisites that must be met in order to merit the charge. Hypothetically, if the DA went for something like murder, which typically involves the requirement of intentionality, the assailants would needed to have intended for Nex to die as a result of their actions, when all they could really prove is manslaughter, that their actions unintentionally led to Nex's death. That's how people go free. That's even assuming the cause of death can be linked to the fight at all. If the DA tries to go for this charge, but they can only prove this charge, and that the jury is going to say, well, you couldn't prove this, but we are going to let you prove this, criminals can go free if the DA fails to bring the proper charges. Their part, Nex's family have retained the services of an attorney who also released a statement saying the facts currently known by the family, not all of which have been made public, are troubling at best. They also urged investigators and prosecutors to be full, fair, and expedient, and revealed that the family and ostensibly their attorneys are independently interviewing witnesses and collecting evidence. Finally, Owasso Public Schools have reportedly been receiving threats and other harassing calls or emails. Both the Benedict family and authorities are asking for this to stop. I have seen a number of people in my comment section who have said they've tried to call the school. This is not helpful. Haya Raichik's followers are known to call and threaten and harass schools after she talks about them on her platform. Us doing this is going to be used against us. There are other ways to express solidarity and protest perceived injustice. It is still a school, and Nex is not the only queer child on their roster. Think about the environment being created for those in those classrooms right now, and think how your actions as a person who doesn't live there, who has no children who go there, might impact the safety of other children who still have to survive that school. I'll continue keeping an eye on this, but please continue checking in with local news agencies. Do not get your news from comment sections or message boards with anonymous commenters claiming to have insider information. That only adds to the spread of misinformation, and while I understand that the internet loves a good true crime story, let's please remember that everyone involved is a real person and not a character in a Mystery of the Week podcast. Hope this helps.
I want to thank you for sticking through this. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank you for just simply caring about those of us who are LGBTQA plus in this country, those of us who are double minorities, some of us triple minorities, for those of us who are marginalized every day. We are in the fight of our lives, and to see our children, our youth, our young people falling victim to violence, falling victim to hate is heartbreaking. This story has obliterated a part of me. It took me back to 1997 and the death of Matthew Shepard, when I was a very young man, and realized what it really means in America to be LGBTQ, what it really means to be different, what it really means to search for love and never be able to find acceptance. And I'm hoping that we are going to be able to garner something from Nex's death that continue to rest in power, and that power being the ability for more young people to live their authentic lives, to be able to avoid bullying, where love truly does defeat hate. That's the world that we're working on. That's the nation that we want to all live in. With that being said, I hope that you will be well. I hope that you'll be blessed. And I hope that no matter what you do, you find the power within yourself to keep pushing. I'll see you soon.